it's Rich. What's going on? It's been a little while. Sorry I haven't been around here too often lately. I've been going through a few things on a personal front, suffering through a few losses, trying to come back strong as I can. You know how it is. Sometimes it's an uphill battle, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about some real straight ahead kind of blues rock guitar technique stuff. Maybe things that aren't discussed as often as they should be. I think recently on, I don't know, one of the social platforms, I think it was Twitter. If I recall correctly, it was Vernon Reid that said, I can't believe more people aren't following Robin Trower. And some a remark to the effect of, in this day and age, so few people are using vibrato as an emotive effect. It's, to me, it's shameful. To me, you really can't, you can't play that type of guitar, blues rock guitar, without some kind of vibrato going. There's some really great players who rely almost solely on this. I don't. This is more of an effect thing for me, or when I want to do an entire chord. For single note stuff, I actually started off playing copies of Les Pauls. So I started off on a fixed bridge, and that's kind of where I got started doing it. Most of the old tunes that I started off listening to had guitar players that had a really strong foundation in that type of playing. And certainly I could hear it. I never really understood how they were getting that sound until I watched them. And the more I went back in time, of course, being pretty young, I didn't realize that the blues rock guitar players of the day were really just blues players with a lot more volume, energy, thicker, more overdriven tone, and so on. The further back I went in time, the more I realized that it really comes from the blues guys, and then it kind of carries over onto today. Vibrato, Benz. What is vibrato, anyways? Anyone really define it? Well, there's a definition out there on the internet. I think it says something like a rapidly varying pitch to achieve a richer sound. And it can be sung or it can be played. It doesn't have to be on an instrument. It can be vocal. If you listen to really highly skilled vocalists, that's where you'll usually hear your greatest variation of vibrato is from vocalists. And I think the goal really, as far as a guitar, besides our obvious guitarist influences, of course, really to get a vocal kind of a sound through the guitar is really the ultimate goal for me, anyways. So, what to achieve that? Well, there are two different ways, basic mechanical ways of achieving it that I've seen players do. I'll tell you who. I've seen B.B. King and Clapton do a technique where the thumb is actually lifted off the neck and the whole forearm is shaken this way. See, I don't really do it because I have no mastery of it, but it's like this with the thumb not touching the neck and the entire forearm is shaken. Like that is what you'll see if you watch Clapton and if you watch B.B. King really close. I don't do it that way. I don't know if it's just the way my muscles work or the players that I've listened to more than I've listened to those two. Certainly one of the greatest of all time. They both are. But most of the players that I've listened to and have watched maybe a little more closely tend to keep their thumb planted more and use their forearm and wrist in a different way. And it's more of a twisting motion. I'm a lot more comfortable with this. So this is how I do it. I do it with a twisting motion that's a lot like turning a screwdriver in a way, or a wrench. It's like this, but with the thumb on the neck. It's like that. Is what the motion looks like. And just strictly a mechanical thing. Let's see, my forearm will rotate like that, depending if I'm going down or pushing up, or not, more of a pull and release. But what am I trying to do as far as sound? When I want to give a note vibrato but I have no time, then I'll just hit it. Really though, for that kind of vocal tone, what I really try to achieve, and hopefully I have enough time in the phrase or in the tune to get it, what I try to achieve most of the time is I try to achieve what I've heard certain vocalists do, which is usually if a vocalist goes like that, immediately hits vibrato on a note, it sounds a little phony if someone sings it. It sounds cool on guitar. You can get away with stuff. But a vocalist will usually hit their note, hold the note, and then gradually bring the vibrato in. And it's a more, to me, it's a more natural, kind of a prettier sound. When I have the time to do that, that's what I try to achieve. So like, and I'll hold it for just a split second, and I'll try to bring it in slower. That's probably a better example. And it's easier for me to calm down a bit and not immediately start shaking the string if I'm actually bending up. I notice that kind of helps me chill out for whatever reason. So that's a couple of things that I try to get when I can with vibrato, and how just kind of the basic mechanics of it. I'm more of a wrist twist type of player as opposed to a lift the thumb off the neck and do this up and down motion. I do more of a twisting motion like that. There's great players do it both ways. I haven't seen too many players like do this and this, the same guy. Usually it's one or the other, but I'm sure there's some out there who have mastered both. I'm just not one of them. I just have my favorite way of doing it. So that's some of the basic things that I'm trying to achieve with it anyway myself. I'm trying to, when I can, I'm trying to sound more like a voice, rather than, try and sound like somebody else's vibrato or whatever else. I did years ago. I'm getting kind of old for that type of thing. I'm trying to sound like me. It's easier than copying someone else at this point in the game. But how do we work on it? The first thing is you're going to eat your frets. There's nothing that wears out frets faster than shoving the string down into it and then scraping it back and forth over and over again on that fret. It literally just gouges the metal right off the fret. If you have stainless steel frets, you're all set. If you have regular nickel silver, this has been refretted twice in nickel silver. Great guitar, by the way. I'll do a separate video on this guitar. But, I mean, it's been refretted a couple times in nickel silver. I always get taller than stock frets because I can grip the string a little bit better. Less likely to pop out. The mistake that usually happens is the string will pop out. It'll pop out like that. And it's embarrassing when it happens. It's happened to the best. I've heard the absolute best have that little oopsie from time to time. It happens. Sometimes your hands are more slippery than you want them to be. But you're gonna wear out your frets more, guaranteed. And most people, I notice a lot of guitar players tend to play in that A minor pentatonic blues box right here, and they'll wear out the middle of the neck. Working on that type of thing. I understand the comfort with good old A and all the variants of A. I understand that, but really from an ease of practice kind of perspective, something I figured out when I was a lot younger was that right around the 12th fret, right around in here, there's a lot less tension. The least amount of tension for bending the strings is here. And when you're really working your muscles and the calluses and also the skin underneath your fingernail, when you're working all that really hard, doing that over and over again, trying to get the sound that you want, you'll hurt yourself, if you're in the wrong place. Obviously down here, the tension is really high down here close to the nut, but right up here and up, up as far as you can play, it's a lot less here than it is anywhere down here. So you're trying to take it easier on yourself and not beat your hands to death. That's kind of, for practice purposes, for that one technique, it's kind of a nice thing to stay where the string tension is at its least. Finally, you'll find that if you do it a lot, if you're just working on vibrato and bends and things like that a lot, what'll happen is your skin will separate. You have your nail and then the skin underneath your nail there, and you'll find that the nail will separate from the skin underneath it. And a little bit is noticeable, but a lot is painful. And when that pain, if you feel that pain start, you're not going to toughen up. If you keep going, it's just going to hurt more and more. You're better off to quit and actually, go ahead and let that be open. Soak the hand in soapy water for 5-10 minutes. Warm soapy water. Pull it out, dry it off, rinse it off and stuff. Give yourself a rest. I hurt myself doing that too many times. And there's no reason anybody has to go through all that just to play guitar. Tune your guitar down. Use lighter strings. If you find yourself, causing that kind of injury, do that for a little while until it starts feeling like, okay, that that it's not going to peel back from behind the skin isn't going to separate from the back of the nail. It's not going to hurt anymore. Then gradually bring your string pitch up to where you normally have it. It's just a general tip. I worked really hard on this, and a couple times I went too far years ago, and I realized what a mistake that was today. I didn't need to go through all that. All I need to do is take a little break and come back to it when my fingertips are feeling a little better, and then get back to it. But it doesn't hurt to tune down. It doesn't hurt to use lighter strings. One thing you may find if you have your guitar set up with really super low action, when you start doing this, you may find that that really hard, blues rock kind of bending and playing is actually easier. This is going to sound backwards, but it's actually a little bit easier with a little bit higher action. And I have theories why. I think they're in line with a lot of other players too. But, the theory is when you're fretting that one note and pushing up, you do have to push the other strings here out of the way to bend up. But the thing is, if your action is higher, then at least these strings are not all being fretted, even partially. By virtue of not being fretted, it's actually slightly easier to bend, even though you're going to fight the tension of the strings above it when you're bending upward like that. You're fighting all the string tension, but at least if they're not fretted, they stay out of your way just a little bit and make it ever so slightly easier to make sure you fret that one note accurately, hit your target pitch, and then hopefully give it the vibrato that you want to achieve the sound you're trying to achieve, which hopefully is somewhat influenced by a voice. Listen to vocalists. There's a lot of general advice out there that you should listen to saxophones and keyboards and this and that. If you're going to play lead guitar, air quotes, listen to vocalists. Really. the fastest piano and most amazing piano players in the world, people are really amazed at what they can do. But in the kind of music most of us are listening to and playing, the vocals are at the forefront. And the more you can make your instrument sound like a voice, the more you will be at the forefront. This is important when you're taking the place of the vocal during a lead or a guitar solo. The more you can take the place, sound like a different voice. It doesn't have to sound like your singing voice or someone's singing voice, but just influenced by the voice, I think is a really cool thing to do if you can. And I've tried to, with, I think, partial success. It's almost impossible to sound exactly like a voice. But I will say one of my main reasons for being so enamored with a Stratocaster is, to me, the guitar sounds the most like a voice. Every pickup on it, especially this one, especially the middle one, and to a certain degree the neck. The bridge maybe less so. I don't know anyone who has quite that scratchy of a voice. But there's something about those two especially that have a vocal kind of a sound. Think about your guitar tone in terms of a voice and one of your voices that you have, and just a different way to look at it. I can ramble on about this stuff all day long. I'll do some more later. Just bending the string is a topic I'd like to get into, and how every string bend should have a very definite start and stop point. In the days I used to teach, I've talked to students a lot about it. Vibrato was a very tough thing to teach. I can demonstrate a few things and show a few ideas like I just have. String bending, though, is a good topic to get into. I'd like to get into later. Another important aspect of all this, of course, is muting. Especially if you have like a gained up type of a sound, because if you don't mute, then you're gonna have that all the time, and you're gonna have this going on in the background all the time. You're gonna have that going on. You don't want that. You want the right hand on the strings. You want to keep the strings quiet, that you don't want making noise. You want to keep everything quiet and just the string that you want. Down here I'm muting, and sometimes I'm also, because I'm a hybrid picker, I'll sometimes, if I want to bend the B string to make sure the E string doesn't ring out, I'll actually curve a finger around it sometimes just to keep it quiet, but the rest of my right hand is doing something to keep the rest of it from making noise. Muting is really important. Listen for extraneous noises when you're working on this stuff too, and try to figure out where they're coming from and how you can stop the extraneous sounds. The more gain and overdrive you use in your tone, the bigger the problem's going to be. The louder you play, of course, you get that lovely feedback interaction between the guitar and the amp, which I live for. But the louder you play, the harder you have to work to keep things quiet when you don't want to make a noise. So, just a few general tips at the end. All right. Well, I hope that's been somewhat helpful. Anyway, and I'll catch you next time. All right. All right. See you.